Well, good morning to everybody. I'll give it a minute to let people log on. Very early after work here, so I never get too much action in the morning, but that's okay. If a few come on, I'll still do the video. And we're going to go through some very, very big topics today. To start, we are going to go with residential school genocide. A lot of people up in arms over the 14 firms in Canada that were rejected by the ICC, the Office of Karim Khan. Now, reality is, everybody, that was going to happen. I wrote a letter that now I've put on YouTube for all of you, dated June 7th. You can all look at that. You'll see I've been working on the ICC long before that. Unlike everybody else, I did not approach this from a bottom-top perspective. I never even considered Canadian law, as we are a colonial system. Why would you use the system that is at fault to try and get anything done? It's never going to work. So I went to the top first. I went to the P5, UNSC P5. I've been hammering on them for more than 4 years. Yes, with independence, and yes, with residential school genocide. What happened is the 14 firms sent their case. I was forced to go public because they added the narrative of the Catholic Church. That wasn't the only flaw in their case. There were several, which isn't expected from Crown sworn colonial Canada. I believe it was done purposely. I believe that if not done purposely, it shows an extreme ignorance of our Canadian legal system, education and all, and that is in international law. So I went to the P5 first. I worked on that for a very long time. I did courses with the ICC, hosted by the ICC. I completed those no later than May of 2021 from the former president of the ICC. Absolutely. Several former prosecutors, several former justices of the ICC. I completed all those courses and in fact finished the last module in developing a case that was administered and passed by the ICC themselves. Okay, so I've done more than any Canadian, especially any Canadian lawyer, ever does or has done in Canadian history, especially with the ICC. Now, going back a step, I told you all I went to the P5 first. Why? Because the ICC is their court. They are the judge, jury, and executioner in that court. If you don't make a case that any of those five decide they don't like it, if they look at your case, it only takes one of them to not like what you're throwing down, guess what? Your case is finished, vetoed, scrapped. Karim Khan is now the prosecutor, but he wasn't before. The last prosecutor, the USA under Donald Trump, did not like the case they were throwing down against Israel. Donald Trump had her sanctioned. All P5 members can take any individual in this world from any country, and they can put sanctions, military intervention, and in fact execute them at will. At will. That is the power of the P5. Every country in this world voted for that a very, very long time ago. It is part of the UN Charter. Read it if you still haven't read it. That is what every country in this world today, to have their sovereignty, to have their UN state status, and to be on the global map, on the atlas, that's what you agree to. If you do not, you don't get state status, you're not a UN state. Like it, love it, or hate it, that is the world. In exchange for that, you get absolutely all human rights that were never afforded before 1945. That is a fact. That is a fact. You can look all this up. It's true. I've done monumental work in international law. I have the best legal minds in the world behind me, with me, from more than 144 countries in the world. Today, I showed a presentation from Richard Albert, top Canadian constitutional expert in law. He's an expert in international law, constitutional law, the very best Canada has ever put out. One of the top 10 best in the United States of America. I share his content. Facebook restricts it, bans it. I'm told I'm not allowed to share in any groups. It's forbidden, I guess. Apparently, Justin Trudeau, Aaron O'Toole, and Jagmeet Singh say that content cannot be shared. In the province of Alberta, Jason Kenney, Premier Jason Kenney, Opposition Leader Rachel Notley, both had my content suspended. Even though every faculty of law in Canada, everybody, ready for this? Every faculty of law in Canada must study Richard Albert's book, one of his books, in the first year of law. Every lawyer that graduates in Canada. But apparently it was forbidden content in Canada by the best legal mind in Canada. I bring that to Canadians, average Joe Jane Canadians, and the Canadian government says, Dave Bjorkman, you are a nuisance. You are propaganda. You abuse Canadian citizens. Okay, I guess the truth is abusive now. I guess when I share international law and the work I've done on the world stage, that is forbidden fruit in Canada. You're all to remain without any human rights whatsoever, and I am to never, ever bring that to you, because that would be the right thing, and that would be abusive to the first-class citizen. And it's all political parties, folks. So that's what happened today. ICC rejected the 14 law firms. As you clearly go back, I said they would. They said I was not experienced enough. I don't have a law degree. I had no business or any experience to lead any case on residential school genocide. However, officially today, I am the very last Canadian with an open case in the ICC for the First Peoples of Canada residential school genocide. In fact, the case is registered in the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, on Children's Day of Genocide and Armed Conflict. So Canadians and First Peoples understand. The RCMP are a military police force. They apprehended your children in armed force. I met the requirements of the ICC. Specifically, I met the requirements of their bosses, the UNSC P5, the entire UNSC Council. In fact, one presented me on June 28th that day, and nobody, I repeat everybody, not a one voted no. No vetoes. I went through the first Canadian for the first time in the histories of the First Nation peoples, specifically Treaty Indians. It's the first time you've ever been put on the real world stage in your entire existence. People don't like that truth, but I'm sorry. This third-class citizen got it done. That's the truth. Part 2, now we're going into Russia. Terrible news. Like I said, good news for us. Before I jump into that, sorry, we have till June 28th, 2022 to get the job done. Yes, we need 5,200 children accounted for. What happened to them? Yes, the Catholic Church is a big part of this, and yes, the Pope is coming, and yes, I still have more plans going forward. Yes, Canadians, I left the Catholic Church. No, I did not leave Jesus Christ. I am a devout follower and believer of Jesus Christ. My girlfriend Tina believes in the Creator. I believe God and the Creator are the same people, okay? I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ, and I have no problem with people's faiths that coincide with my beliefs. I choose to follow Jesus. That's reality. That's who I am, regardless of what everybody says. I am a Christian. I'm just no longer a Catholic. No longer a Catholic. The Pope made a commitment. He says they were going to do it. The Canadian bishops told me to get stuffed, basically. So until the Pope arrives here, until I have the Pope's commitment, until we find 5,200 residential school children who were murdered, destroyed by the church and all religious organizations. First Peoples are only 48% of the organizations under the Canadian government. Is it a big one? Yeah. But the United Church and many others are right there front and center. I haven't stopped, haven't skipped a beat. I just don't share all my work because I've had a phenomenal amount of theft to other parties, intellectual property stolen. I'm a third-class citizen. I can't fight the first-class system when people are giving the first-class system, who are the perpetrators of the crime, giving them my intellectual property. I have to withhold more than ever now. Did I want to do that? No, but I have to be secretive. And you know what? I have my people on my email list. The video I just put on YouTube today, it's going to go out on that email list just to update everybody. But what I'm doing behind the scenes now is secretive. I'm sorry, but we're in dangerous waters now. And that's part 2 of this video. Now I'm going to get into that. Russia. So Russia put forward the Nazi resolution on colonial Nazi systems. Voted in majority by every country. No vetoes except for one. Joe Biden's America vetoes it, even though it passed in absolute majority. It was a death blow to Canada. It lands a heavy blow against me and the work I'm doing against the government of Canada, all political parties. A deafening blow for sure. It's a rocker. It's terrible. But it's not over, and because of that, I'm going to get into Ukraine now. Ukraine is the most corrupt country in all of that radius of 5,000 square miles. So corrupt, in fact, regardless, people, of what you think, Ukraine is so corrupt, their GDP has the lowest growth rate in any country around it within 5,000 miles. So low, in fact, Russia blows it out of the water. Now people argue and argue about corruption. That corruption comes from crown colonial systems. Corruption like South Africa, like Canada, where sure they have a great GDP, but where are they getting that GDP from? Who are they robbing to get that GDP? Well, that's easy. They're borrowing against the First Peoples. The First Peoples that they are disavowing as even human beings, keeping them suppressed, lower than any kind of human form of life. Illegal in this world today. South Africa did the same thing against the Africans of South Africa. They got absolutely dismembered, their constitution voided, their political elections, federally, all parties were audited by the P5 and absolutely all parties voided. That was the Labour Party, that was the Liberal Party, that was the Conservative Party, and it goes on and on and on. They were all decimated, removed, finito. They had an imposed constitution. 2 years later, a real constitution. Nelson Mandela, released from prison, won the election, changed the country for the better, and all of those white racist prisoners released back to South Africa after it was fixed. This is not the first time the UNSC P5 has done that. They've done it many, many times, many countries. It's just not real big news for Canadians because you're not to be told of any of it. You're not to learn anything in the real world of international law because your government is one of those systems. Now, Russia put up the fight as I asked them to. as I asked them to, as I've shared their works, their great works in the UNSCP 5, things that they've had ratified. Joe Biden just betrayed America and went with Ukraine. I'm going to tell you about Ukraine, everybody, and corruption. You can't have a country free of corruption or even a free country, regardless of how many parties you have, if you don't have any civil, political, or human rights or cultural rights. There are binding world laws on this. Every country must adopt them and sign them. Guess who's never signed them? Not the Declaration of Human Rights, not any of them. Ukraine. And USA says this is a wonderful country that is far more corrupt than Russia's ever been in its entirety. In fact, when you go back to the fall of Russia in 1991, their per capita GDP was 3,000 compared to currently UK's 2,100 per person per capita. Today, Russia's 5 times that now. 5 times that now. That is a monumental amount of human rights abuses and absolute corruption. You can't have unilateral declarations of independence. You can't have American presidents betraying international law and granting one country a unilateral declaration of independence while forcibly imprisoning another set of politicians doing the same thing in the country of Spain just 2 years ago. It doesn't work. It puts the world in turmoil. It doesn't follow the UN Charter, and it's absolutely against international binding law. It is a shit slap in the face of the UN Charter 1945 and all the people of the world. Absolutely. That was George H. Bush who did that. He didn't tell the American people. He did an executive order. One major malfunction in international law of the United States of America, where the 50 states need to get this education. I know it's important. It's a flaw of America. It's an abuse of the power of America. And it's against the people of America and their fundamental principles. And you need to be taught that. Just as Canadians need to know what the world really is, what happens around them, and where we are in it. Because as of just 7 hours ago now, we've lost an international binding law that could have brought Canada to justice quicker than ever. We lost. And why? Because of USA's need to interfere in Russia's sovereignty into its territorial borders to keep it weak, to fight fellow P5 members, just as Taiwan and China. Right or wrong, people, these are the laws of the world we all agreed to. And if that can be done in those big countries, what can be done all over the world? Nobody cares until it affects them. World War III would affect all of us. I promise you, not in a good way. That's my video. Share. Stay tuned for my next video on feminism and the crime of rape, as I go through that in its entirety like no one else has ever done in world history. A one-of-a-kind presentation that's going to surely blow every man and woman away. It's never been done, never been explained, and never gone through. Ladies, you're going to want to see this. You're going to want to share it. I don't know if Facebook Canada is going to find it abusive and content that should be restricted. I guess I'll find out. We'll find out if Justin Trudeau believes in equality or if he's the fraud I know him to be. Is Rachel Notley, does she believe in equality, or is she absolutely the fraud I know she is? Chrystia Freeland? We're going to go through feminism as it really is, and I'm going to teach for the first time in world history in a monumentous video feminism, starting with the crime of rape in its historical significance as it really is. First time ever. You're going to want to tune into this, ladies. Whether you consider yourself left, right, feminist, or just a woman, matriarchal, or of the Christian value, doesn't matter. You're all going to want to hear this. Thank you. That's my video. Good night, everybody.